I did see this pop up in the news. I don't know. This is fairly recent. So I remember seeing the Solo Stove campaign with Snoop Dogg whenever that happened. It was in the last month or something. And I'm going to go ahead and I've got a clip that breaks down the whole situation. I'm going to share that clip, and then I am going to, after I share that clip, I'm going to give you some of my experience with viral videos and what that means for you as a company, why you should or should not be shooting for getting a viral video, et cetera, et cetera. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and play this guy.
I have an announcement. I'm giving up smoke. I know what you're thinking.
I bet you weren't thinking the CEO of the company behind this viral ad was about to be fired, but that's exactly what happened. Here's how it all went down. Remember when Snoop Dogg said he was giving up smoke? The Instagram post had nearly 5 million likes and duped media orgs around the globe.
Snoop, smoke is kind of your whole thing, but I'm done with it.
Days later, the weed enthusiast revealed the smoke he was referring to was the one around the fire pit.
Solo Stove fixed fire. They took out the smoke. Clever.
The ad had more than 50 million views on Instagram alone. Clever indeed. Or was it? The ad had everyone talking. Ad Age ranked the collab the 18th best ad of 2023. And John Maris, the CEO of Solo Brands, wrote a 44-post thread on X about how they scored the Dogfather of Smoke as Solo Stove's first ever spokesperson. 1 month later, it all backfired for him. Because while the ad raised brand awareness and expanded Solo Stove's audience, it did not lead to the sales lift that we had planned, interim CFO Andrea Tarbox said.
That's the whole purpose of the commercial, right?
Right. Plus, paying Snoop's not cheap, and the increased marketing investment negatively impacted the company's earnings. The company announced John Maris is out, and Vista Outdoor CEO Christopher Metz is in.
So I thought that was absolutely fascinating for multiple reasons. First of all, every now and then you will have clients that their measure of success is virality, right? And they're also looking at, what are commonly known in the industry as vanity metrics, like how many likes did you get? How many shares did you get? Things like that. And those things are obviously important, right? You want to raise brand awareness like they did with Solo Stove. The issue is that doesn't necessarily translate to more sales. So when it comes to making content and things like that, I can't emphasize enough how important it is for you to think about how that content will be used. Because again, if you are a small and medium-sized business and you're putting out content, and it goes back to what we started this podcast off with, where we were talking about putting out content and not really seeing any results. And all of a sudden somebody's like, oh yeah, I've been watching your stuff for 6 months. And you're like, well, you've never commented on it, liked it, but that person ends up signing on for your service or purchasing your product or whatever it might be. So really, when you look at virality and the idea of getting a lot of eyeballs on your content, that seems like it should be the goal. But the reality of it is you need to have content that is going to work for you in some capacity. And what that generally means is having a healthy mix of content that will get eyeballs. And sometimes that means, doing stuff that's more trendy or meme oriented, things like that. And obviously, again, I'm a very big proponent of selling less in your content, and really bringing value to people. And I think that value, it can come in many different shapes and sizes. You know what I mean? You can bring value to people by making them laugh, by making them feel something, like making them feel emotional about something like that. Sharing stories is great for this. And again, I look at my clients that are in service-based businesses, and actually what's crazy is they are starting to get quite a few views on YouTube. They're getting a handful of their videos have got 10, 11,000 views on them. And this is not somebody that's trying to become a YouTuber. They're not trying to, like run the table on YouTube. But what's happening is over the last 3 years, we've been creating content and we've been following the They Ask, You Answer playbook, which is my client has been installing hardwood floors for, 15 years at this point, for a long time. And he knows a ton of stuff about hardwood flooring installation, refinishing. I mean, you name it, he's seen it because he's been doing it. And he knows, aside from, doing the actual like SEO work, like going to answer the public, he knows what people ask because he's answering these questions all the time. And so for him, it's nice that some of these videos are getting a lot of views on YouTube, but the reality of it is for him, the real value is he goes out and runs a bid with a prospective client and they ask him about a handful of things that he's answered a million times. So we have videos for them. So then when he leaves, he gets to follow up with them and say, hey, thanks so much for your time today. I hope we get the opportunity to work with you in the future. I know you'd ask me about these questions and I answered them for you, but I wanted to share, we have videos around this subject and he can send those to people. So again, that video, that content is working for him in a way that is really, it's hard to track and measure and it's hard to see that stuff. So when it comes to content strategy, creating high quality content doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get Snoop Dogg and that you have to go viral. I had a client and this was, there's been, I think like 2 or 3 times in the last 6 years where actually, really just this was probably the most obvious example of it just not being a good fit for me and somebody else. Like when I think back over the time, I can't think of anybody else, but there was a client that they called me in and this was right when, it was around, I think COVID, it might've been like early 2021. Like I think we were getting past the pandemic and all that. But they had an employee that had started a TikTok channel and it was her personal channel, but she was like filming stuff at work, right? And she was a young, like college age girl and she was super personable and she was great. And it was right when TikTok was just giving out views. I mean, if you were on TikTok, you were getting a ton of views. And she had ended up, when she left, like she ended up quitting and going somewhere else. So they ended up buying her TikTok channel from her so they could use it smart, right? So they could continue to create content for it. And I remember they had some viral moments on there and they were selling something that it could be shipped nationwide. So they weren't a true e-com company, but they had e-com capabilities. And they brought me in and they were so adamant about just creating viral content. And I had to really try to explain that, look, the reason this content was viral is because of the creator that you had. And I cannot take, and I'm not going to be the on-screen persona that follows up a 22-year-old girl, right? The people that loved her and thought she was bubbly and cute are not going to find me appealing at all. Like I'm not the same person. And you can't fake that stuff. And that was something where I could not explain. I said, look, we can create content here. And we can follow best practices and we can create a strategy and we can make that move. But the virality that you're looking for is going to be very difficult to get. And that's not necessarily going to translate into sales. You know what I mean? But, and this guy, again, it didn't work out. So let's just say we didn't see eye to eye on things. And it took about 3 months before we went our separate ways, thankfully. But my point was he was just so enamored with virality and going viral. And it's just, to me, it's like, that should not be your goal. In my opinion, the goal should be create valuable content that is helpful to people, that is insightful, that will make people think, that will make them laugh, et cetera, et cetera. And do that for a while. That way, if you do have a piece of content go viral, hopefully it's for the right reasons, hopefully it's a good reason that it goes viral, then people can find you. They can go back and they can see your entire scope of work, the stuff you've been working on for the last year, 2, 3 years, when you've just been doing the work and putting out content and putting out content and putting out content. And then when something takes off, then when people come and find you, they're like, oh, wow, this person is creating stuff that I like. I like their brand. I like their voice. I like what they have to say. I like their opinion. It's helpful, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think virality should ever be the goal of a content creator. I think that should be something where if it happens and when it happens, it's almost like a hole in one in golf. It's like, I mean, yeah, technically, I guess you are trying for a hole in one every time that you tee up on a par 3. But the reality of it is, like, just try to get better at golf. Just work on getting better at golf. Don't go out and say, I got to hit a hole in one every time. That should not be your goal. Your goal should be, I need to get better around the greens. I need to get just better in general. And then the hole in one or the virality, when it happens, it's just a bonus. It's just awesome. And it lifts everything else up that you've been doing. And if you've been working towards, becoming the best content creator that you can be, or creating the best content for your company, and then something takes off, then that's just going to end up paying you off in dividends in the long run. You know what I mean?